So we're back. It's Tuesday with Mina. We're
Yes.
back together again, and we're here to talk about networking in the virtual era. One would think, how in the world do you network when you are going on a Zoom call or an online call? But before we do that, I wanted to take us through a quick overview and kind of a review of your preparation, being the preparation, and then being in the meeting, and then the post meeting very quickly, so that the people that have not joined us before can actually catch up a little bit. And so let's talk about the etiquette of joining in a virtual meeting. We talked about etiquette the very first time in terms of coming into the meeting. How do you prepare? Can you give us a very high level overview, Mina?
Okay. Well, always keeping in mind at all times that you want to have that professional, persona, your image. Make sure that that comes with your attire. Make sure that comes with your preparation, which is your grooming. And more than anything, always try to see if you're going to have the proper environment that you're going to be able to conduct, whether it's a half an hour, or maybe even 90 minutes, because it was an overtime issue, right? So try to make sure that if you're going to have anything to eat, that you take care of that ahead of time. Try to eliminate having to have something with you that's going to be very obvious, that you're going to lift up a coffee mug and all we see is the labels and the stickers at the bottom of it. Or there's other things that we see. We lose your face because the mug is bigger than your face by the time you lift it up like this. And it's only a matter of perception, is what I'm saying. And what if there's a spill? Because any drink that you're supposed to drink, wine glass, milk, whatever it is, you look at your beverage. People don't do that. They're like looking somewhere else and they think they're so cool. Next thing you know, you have stuff all over you. So it happens on virtual. So, and then what's going to happen? You're going to have a stain and you don't want to get up and go. If you need to get up for any reason and you have that extra portrait that you want to put up there, as long as it's, appropriate, and we say appropriate to the fact that it's going to be not, how can I say, something you don't want to not show. There's different people have different ways of having their background. And if anything, not have anything with noise, like a waterfall, that kind of thing, because it's distractive. Although it might be your business, whether you're in the spa or health and wellness, and you have that to charm you up. It's not so when you pick up sound. So what I want to get to is just make sure that you don't have any noisy distractions. Kind of get used to the environment you're in right now. If we're going to continue to be like this for a long time, make sure that you vocally express to your habitants, small or adults, or what's going to happen, that you need to have that space, whether it's in the corner of a room somewhere, or you're actually taking up one of the heaviest traffics in your, between your kitchen and your living room.
I call that setting yourself up to win. Setting yourself up to win is creating that space.
Sure. Yeah. So being professional at all times, and always, remember to be active and know how actively involved, and know how to participate, not just, raise your hand all across the screen. There's a moment, but where I want to go before you're going to be 100% ready is listen to the cues that your host had provided you in advance. How? Because of an email you received, or some kind of Zoom notice, or something that's going to set the precedence ahead of time. Are you going to have a panel setting? Is this just a one-on-one with you and I don't know how many others, but you're the only two that, like in this setup that you and I have? Or are you going to have a Q&A, which is going to be a whole different dynamic, right? Because you're going to allow to go back and forth with your conversations. Or are you going to have a open forum? The only two that, like in this setup that you and I have. Go ahead and chat. Okay, well, who's going to take the time to look at that and answer those questions? We've talked about how user-friendly, and not everybody's tech savvy, and you handle quite a bit on your end there. I could imagine your apparatus that you have, besides taking notes, besides reading those things coming in, and you're managing Facebook at the same time when you're doing Zoom. That's 2 platforms, so come ready with all of that, and nod your head to know that you're being actively involved, and something that's going to trigger that your host is seeing that you're still awake, that you understanding, and your impression is a lot. So with that, what you're learning is social skills going on the virtual era. Don't try to always
something else that I was thinking, Mina, is If that is if you're participating, and if you're leading the call, it's going to be really important for you to let your audience know what is happening. For example, I had a call where I was leading one of the calls, and I didn't realize my door is always open because I like the breeze to come through my place. And usually it's very quiet, but in that morning there was construction going on. And so I said to them, can you hear the construction? So I almost brought them into my world so that they would understand, rather than just say, I'll be right back, move out and have the audience wait and see what's going on. I said, can you hear the construction? They said, yes. I said, I'm going to be away for 30 seconds. Peter, would you mind just continuing and continue to talk? I moved my visual into my picture so that people wouldn't see me coming out and in, because it's distracting no matter what, and then closed the door, rushed back, and then came back in and put the picture back up. Is there anything different that you would have done in that circumstance? Because you're gonna have things that you can't anticipate.
Right.
Sometimes, let's face it, we're in our home, not a fixed environment. So what would you do there?
You know, that was an excellent example of what we've experienced, most of us have, but these changes are going to happen. So you want to be ready for that. And if anything, try to mute yourself at all times if you're going to have some kind of a sound, other than you being the speaker. You yourself, like the other day, I had, as early as it was, I guess they were doing an early shift, and the waste management was coming by. And you know how loud that is, picking up the trash cans and all? And so, yes, and I had to have unmuted. And so if you're in a complex where you really have all this drilling and everything going on, excuse yourself, let them know ahead of time. But it also helps to know if you're going to have that distraction ahead of time.
Yes,
And if you are,
Violetta on Facebook is saying preparation is key.
yes.
Violetta is saying, yes, I have to handle 2 laptops, 2 big screens, the camera, monitor, the chats, and participants. It could be so difficult to manage it all. Wow, Violetta, that's a lot.
Right.
I don't have that much. I just have the one computer, and on the computer I have Facebook. And then in order for me to watch and see the comments from folks, I put it on Facebook in my phone, and I normally have it all the way down to low. If you're going to put it on Facebook on your phone, because that's the only way that I can monitor real time when people are asking questions. And then I have this little holder. And this little holder, what it does is it has a magnet in the back. I stick a magnet in the back, and so the holder holds it for me. And so if I put it right next to it, and notice I always have it plugged in, and I have it plugged into a regular supercharger so that I can move it anywhere. And so what happens is if I put this right next to the front, then I now can see the Facebook as you all, as you're coming up, Violetta, I can see you, Pilar, great tips. And George and Julian and Clara and Judy and Violetta and Ruth. Oh my goodness. Mina, you're very popular.
You know, that's wonderful that they're interested, because these are skills they're going to take away.
Yes.
And
so it's going to be really comfortable. And for me, it's the least amount of things that I have to handle. It's more succinct, but it is a risk because I have Facebook and Zoom in one computer. Some people have Zoom and Facebook and Instagram, and then they also have YouTube in different computers or in different phones. So now you're maneuvering through a lot. So I can see that.
And just remember how stressful that could be too, right?
It can be. It can be. Sometimes I prefer to have Zoom and Facebook only because with Zoom I can get the actual recording, and then I can put the recording everywhere I want, and I can brand it before I post it on my YouTube, and then talk about what I did. I did that when I did Keith Ferrazzi's interview last week. I did it, and then I like sending the actual recording to my audience. So it's always good for you to have that recording.
And see, practice makes perfect. So you've been involved in all these different arenas and things.
Yes.
And here we are now, you know, remotely working from locations that we're not used to.
Yes.
And anything, get acclimated with your space.
Yes.
You do that, and you need to know and feel comfortable. And I think you said Violeta is on there too, and she has I could just see her monstrosity going on over there. And just be prepared, because you know the unexpected might happen. And if I may add, and I know we're going to talk about this a little later because it'll have to do with about networking and
Yes.
how do you want to come prepared and what kind of beverage do you drink and what have you. But for those of you that manage that kind of a platform, you know, you're not going to have a chance to step away. So make sure that if you had a chance to get some water ahead of time, because there's a lot, you know, especially if you're hopping from one thing to another,
Yes.
make sure that you are going to be feeling okay.
Hydrated.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it. And you're feeling okay and you're hydrated. Gives you more flexibility, and it conveys a much more confident, you know, appeal. So
Yes.
yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing those accessories. That's
Oh,
really
you're very
great.
welcome. So
Sure.
Vicente, welcome, and Pilar, welcome. Gabriel, Ricardo, welcome everybody. So we're talking to Mina Martinez, and she is the Chief Etiquette Officer and founder of Prestige Protocol. And so I wanted the audience to know who you are. You have been a senior manager for Boeing, and you've traveled all over the world, and you have been certified by a lot of different organizations on your etiquette. I have personally joined you in some of your courses at some of the local universities where you have delivered etiquette courses to university students on how do you show up at a dinner? How do you show up? Which fork do you take? Which glass do you take? Where does everything go? And I may remind everyone of the story when I first came from Colombia. My Aunt Ruby sat me down and said, I'm going to teach you etiquette because someday you're going to dine with the President of the United States. Little did I know, 14 years later, I was dining with President Bush, and I was well prepared. I was well prepared. Now I can go and dine with anyone, and thanks to your classes, you've kind of sharpened me a little bit better on showing up. And now we're in a totally different world. How do we show up? All of us are in meetings all day long. I have business meetings from the crack of dawn until 5 p.m. is my last meeting. And there are a lot of different people that show up to a meeting. So let's suppose, just like networking in real life, if we go to an event where there are 50 people, say for example, and a lot of those people I want to get to know because I know that they can get to my business. How do you prepare for a meeting like that? And it can be a birthday celebration in the middle of COVID. It can be a birthday celebration. It can be a networking meeting, or it can be an educational seminar. We have access to so many different people these days that are giving away their gifts. It can be an educational seminar where communities of interest come, and they could be your potential customers. How do you prepare for something like that?
Okay. We have to keep in mind that, in particular to networking,
Yes.
remember, what is the purpose of networking? What are we doing?
Yes.
It's on one word. We are building relationships, and networking is about relationships. You can read about it, you can text about it.
Yes.
That's the word I found to be very true.
Yes.
So how do you prepare for that? Well, are you going to be doing a networking reception that's going to require some kind of subscription? Are you being invited? Okay, there's two things. Subscription means you might have to pay. You want to show up right. You know you're going to be there, right? Because they're going to have your name. They're going to do roll call, however way that's handled. I don't know.
So let's talk about showing up right, Mina, because it's the same thing that you're talking about. Dress the part.
Yes.
So don't show up, even if it's just a breakfast meeting, don't show up in your, whatever it is, in your home, comfortable attire, because it's a professional environment. Make believe, we were talking about taking a shower in the morning, putting my makeup on, doing my hair, dressing up, no matter what, because you never know who's going to be calling. We were just getting on the call when I got a phone call, and it was the Small Business Administration in Washington, D.C. It was a 30-second call, but I had to take it. Had this been a Zoom call, hey, hop on a call, and if I was in my casual clothes, there I go. We
Yeah.
don't know. So
Yes.
always be ready and always be professional.
Right. Just like if you were going to be stepping out to be there in person.
Yes.
This is the same. All it is a change in your virtual appearance. You are
Yes.
still like if you're driving yourself somewhere, okay?
Exactly.
Including maybe putting on some shoes, because the unexpected happens. I mentioned this from the get-go, in Southern California, we have a lot of tremblers, we have earthquakes, and we have to be mindful of when we wake up. Now, if you're not feeling well and you for some reason just cannot be part of this, let the host know by some other way if there's plenty of time to do so. And don't do this at 5 minutes before she's going to go on or they're going to go on.
Right.
And because it's going to be an impact on both sides. And if you're a presenter or you have some key role in that, you have to understand you're going virtual. So try to be prepared by making your steps ahead of time. If the night before you're not feeling well, please make that note obvious, because what could happen is the turn for the worse. Let's say,
Yes.
right now we just don't know what to expect. So the patterns that we're following is you might not feel too good. Next thing you know, you have all kinds of things that happen to you. Speak honestly, open and be respectful of that, because punctuality means so much. If
Yes.
you're not feeling well, unless you're going to get sick or something, you don't have time to explain. They don't care. Just make yourself aware that the night before,
Yes.
I'm not 100%, so I'm going to pass on this. So
Yes.
your host will say, we are missing about 3 people today. We're going to cover such and such, but we're going to have to reconvene some other time. Your host needs to know how to control that. And so that's very important in how you're going to prepare. So how do we, right?
Yes.
And if it's going to be just a couple people, or is it a whole group of people?
I wanna give you some comments from our folks on Facebook that have dialed up. We have Facebook is pretty much blowing up here, but yes, I run a telehealth. This is Violetta again, clinics for our doctors at this Historial where I work, and they take advantage of these clinics in between their busy schedules and giving them the best means a lot. That's amazing. And then Gabrielle says, sometimes I even put on really nice shoes, even if nobody sees them. Absolutely. I love it, Gabrielle, because however you feel, that's what you're going to portray.
Exactly.
Maria is saying, I feel we're always marketing how we walk into a room, how we greet people. Do we treat all the same? And do we remember our manners? Absolutely. All of this speaks to who you are. Pilar says the reality is that the home office is now the office. Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, ready and professional. And Giselle says yes. Oh, Giselle just started watching us, and John, welcome. So we have a lot more people that have joined us since. Denise is watching.
Great.
Pilar, Maria, welcome. Jake is with us. Anna, hi Anna. Hamilton, Doreen, Taylor, Vicente Correa, Pilar, Gabriel, Ricardo. So if for those of you who are watching us on Facebook, if you have any questions for Mina, please go ahead and write them down, and I'll monitor and make sure that you get your questions answered. If for any reason it's 2:20, this is a 30-minute conversation that we're having. And if for any reason we're not able to answer your questions right away, go ahead and write them down, because we'll go back and we'll answer them together afterwards.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk about the act of networking. And one of the things that I always talk about when I talk about networking, whether you go to a golf event, and now golf is open, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of protocol, talk about prestige protocol that happens, but they are open. And so whether you're going to golf or you're going to an online environment, it's pretty much the same, because we're dealing with people. And networking is about building relationship. And when you're building a relationship, remember when you started dating, you didn't go from A to Z in one date. You got to know people. So you do the same thing. So tell us, what's the best way? Have you encountered the best way to kind of get to know people in an online environment in a way that gives you permission to maybe follow up with them and begin some sort of a dialogue with them that will eventually turn into a relationship?
Mm-hmm. Well, depending on what the level of meeting it is it first time new people altogether, which could be very, how can I say, what's the word when you are not ready to just like when you go to a table, you don't know how to navigate it. It's just a shadow, and you have no idea. You heard all these wonderful accolades, and next thing you know, it's not what you wanted, and so forth. So be very careful. It's like when in the past we used to give out business cards. You don't want to give them out like tickets. You just want to make sure that there's a reason why you're going to connect with that person and why you want to give that blessed, business card.
Yes.
It says a lot about you, so you have to be careful. And then there's others that are just passing it out because that's their marketing, and that's that. So that's changed completely.
Yes.
So, going back to the virtual and how to be social about it, if there is anyone that knows, if you have some time to kind of like look and see who you are, who that person is, that you know who your attendance is. But
Yes.
what if you don't know? Then you don't know, until you're actually there. Now, I just only see you and I on here. I don't know if anyone else on Facebook had actually seen everybody else that's on there. Or did they just see
No,
you?
the only thing that they're seeing right now is they see you right now because I have you on the speaker's view. So
Oh,
when
I
you're
see.
speaking, they see your picture. When I'm speaking, they see my picture. And when there are many people on the Zoom, then what you can actually see is you can see the person and then you can see the name. The first thing I do when I get on a meeting like that, where I don't know everybody, is I make sure that my name says Dr. Betty. I don't want it to say Betty. I don't want it to say Effectus, which is the name of my company. I want it to just be Dr. Betty or
Okay.
Dr. Betty Uribe.
Mm-hmm.
That it's spelled correctly and that my name is right. Because if people want to look me up later, I make it really easy to have them look me up. So whatever name I put on Zoom, that is the name that they will use to look me up. And a lot of times it's LinkedIn, so I'll put my LinkedIn name.
Yes. Okay.
The second thing that I normally would do, and I want to tell you what I do, and you tell me what I could do better, and if it's okay. So when I get on the meeting, as soon as I see who's going to be there, if I get a list of the invitees, I look them up first. And I see, okay, this person is this person is this. I'm going to be doing some workshops for women, for example. Then I'm looking for the women, or I'm going to be doing some workshops on financial literacy for small business. Then I'm going to be looking for the small business owners. And so I get to know them online first before I come to the table, if I have a list. But you're right, sometimes we don't have a list. And so what I do is I come in and I see there is a way to take a picture of your screen so that you can see who is there, and the picture of the screen will show the name that appears when you move your cursor. So the way to take the picture of your screen is you go Shift Command 4 if you have a Mac. If you don't, I don't know, but you need to figure it out. But take a screenshot, and then if you move your cursor, it'll tell you what the name is of that person. So then later you can look them up and you can say, oh my goodness, I saw you there. But if you already know, there is the chat function, and you can have a private chat with someone. It's also a good opportunity for you to say, oh my goodness, it's so good to see you here, and to reconnect with people and make it personal. The last time I saw you, we were having lunch at such and such. What are your thoughts there?
A couple, because it depends what you're entertaining. You said something about a training ahead of time,
Yes.
right? You want to know who's all there. Or you're going to have a panel and you're going to bring in people that you are going to associate with those topics that you're going to be speaking about. It's important to know who you are going to have, yes. But that's like the power of having a deadline or a certain RSVP date so that you can look and find out, oh, this is what I'm getting, because you're not going to know who you're feeding out to if you leave it open to the public.
Yeah.
Now, if this is a personal, so there's two things. You're either going to invite someone from a list that you trust and or you're going to the public, and that's dangerous. I've seen many things, many people hop on things, and
Yes,
and the conversation is completely terrible. It leads you to think, and then they're not there physically like you and I. They put a picture. So it's like something, like a dark mountain or something.
Yes.
Already the body language is telling me something very bad.
Yes.
So I'm going to say, please be mindful of those kind of things. Know who who your
Know who your audience is.
yeah, who your audience, but in what venue too, who are you networking with?
Yes.
Because there's people that are just bouncing around to do harm, unfortunately, and not want to learn skills. You're about awareness and sharing that. There's a purpose for why you're having a networking event. So, I had some other tips about that too. About wanting to say something, but it's all in how you're going to conduce yourself, because you're looking for a benefit for everybody in what you're hosting.
Yes.
Now, if you're going to a reception and you're going to have a networking event, networking has its own word, and that could be
Yes.
part of a meeting. So as the host, you're going to set the precedents, which another word for precedents is rules. We're going to be able to have this, that, and the other. You could bring your pens. If you're going to bring a notepad, make sure, it's not going to be crinkly paper. You're going to be hearing, I think you said something last week about how will you participate, right?
Yes.
So you need to have that actively involved, mode that you got to turn on and be involved like that, not be at the side looking at your messages like we talked about on your phone. So social networking, that is different than business networking, okay?
Yes.
Because those are two different words. Let's say you're having a business social. Okay, what is that? It's a virtual, we're talking virtual, everything's here virtual.
Yes.
So if you're going to participate, your host will let you know from the beginning. You can bring your food and beverage, which is known as F&B. If you're going to bring food and beverage, know what you're going to bring to the table, because maybe it's just going to be, hey, let's get to know each other. These are the 3 things I need to know from you. And so you're setting the precedents again. So let's say you start off very nice with just a meeting. There's no food involved, but there's going to be a little reception after. So you're going to set the tone by saying, we will conclude the meeting and regroup after 10 minutes for our social networking. Please bring your beverage. If you want to bring that water or bring that glass of wine, you've said it, or you already put it in that email ahead of time. That's why I said it's very important to say that. Now,
Yes.
I purposely put together a little, and I use acrylic for everything. Okay, this is not glass. And I kind of filled it up right there because I started feeling very scratchy throat and everything ahead of time. But I thought, let me just bring this. Don't have glass next to you, if anything, please.
No.
Okay, try to have acrylic or plastic. That's best.
And water is nice rather than red wine, because if it
Water.
spills and you have something and it gets stained, water you can always clean up after.
And you said exactly what my next point was going to be.
Yes.
There is time for everything later. You could have your wine after, but I think you want to give you that presence of saying, okay, if you are really itching for that, drink and you really want it, then I don't think your presence is needed at that meeting or at that reception, because you said it before. If you see something that you don't like, it's going to be negative, then there's going to be, I need 10 people to go to an event. Can you come? And we're talking virtual.
Yes.
And there you have it. You have somebody who just can't control their I'll say the word, addiction.
Yes.
Right? So you just don't know who you're bringing into your table.
Mina, I read a statistic, and then I want to go to the audience because we have some people that have joined us from Australia also. Yes. So I read a statistic, everybody, and this is an interesting statistic. And once I read it, it changed the way I show up at meetings. And it was this: the person, they did a study of people that went to events, and this is events, but it also applies to virtual. The people that went to events, unless otherwise, if it's a party, a birthday party, you're going to have a toast and then you go and get your drink to do the toast and then you put it back. That's different. But the statistics show and the studies show that people that are drinking liquor or wine versus people drinking water at a social event, the people drinking water, you're not going to believe this, were thought to be intelligent, more intelligent than the people that were drinking liquor or wine at a social gathering. How do you like that? Did you know that?
Yes. In other words, and I'm glad you brought that up because, there's so many ways that you can see the effectiveness of what a beverage could do for you just within 5 minutes, Yeah. But I think water is the most soothing thing. And right now in a virtual environment that we are, you got to come that way. If you've had a bad day, don't appear. That's what I was saying from the get-go, because that's very important. You have to show your professionalism in anything you're doing nowadays, particularly, when you're involving a multicultural audience.
Yes.
You have to be so careful. There are two and I call it two scales of networking. There's your domestic, local, national. Then there's your global, international networking. Completely different culture.
Yes.
And I worked in the aerospace industry, and I've had to serve executives at the request of my management. And we had to go to a dinner after there was the business meeting, and it was offsite. Well, always try to know their modalities, know their ways of what they're going to want. Just because they're from a certain, background, their ethnicity, you have to know all of this. This is what's important about international protocol. And I studied that like no other because it impacted and made such a difference. If you're going to have a networking event and you bring something that they just constantly eat, it's a cultural meal for them, and they come to LA, California, they want something totally different. But that's up to them. You always ask who the person is, who your customer is, and you work those out. Those are customer relation things that you have to know ahead of time. And
Yes.
and don't ever, think that, oh, they're from Italy, oh, pasta and pizza. You've just made the worst error. Take
Yes.
them to a fine French restaurant and any other thing that's available for you to do that. So that's another thing. But when I talk about networking, be mindful of who you're dealing with, because you have certain privileges and you don't want to burn them. You just don't want to burn them. Know how to convey the message of what you want to do. And I'm gonna quote Maria Mastro de Casa, who is also online with other things that we do, and she might be on this one. I heard you say
She
Maria.
is on this one.
Is it Maria?
Yes.
She said, give value to all you do. And she said that last time.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, gosh, some people really want to improve. They project that. They know that's what it is. And so we're in different environments. And
Yes.
this networking, give the value of what you're all about.
Yes.
This is not the time to promote what you do and how you do and all those accolades. Keep it so out of that and just keep a comfortable conversation. If the customer is interested, they'll ask you in a different way.
Yes.
But don't do the elevator speech. That's what I'm trying to say. That pitch is like not the thing that we do anymore.
Else's meeting. It's
No.
and Maria brought this up, and in there, Giselle. There's other people that brought this up as well. Is if it's not your meeting, you need to really look at their agenda and look to add value to their agenda. It's almost like my mother used to say, hágase livianita, mijita, para que la inviten otra vez. Make yourself nice and light, dear one, so that they can invite you again. You want to get invited at the table again. The way to get invited, the way I have gotten invited to the table, into all kinds of tables, all over the world, and the way that I have gotten invited to the table again is by adding value. Let me go to Facebook Live and see what folks are saying, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I think we are going to do this again because you just touched on something that I think we need to delve into a little bit deeper. So Violetta is saying yes. Let's respect all cultures. We get to learn more and ask. Maria. Anna, can you also offer suggestions for groups and meetings that are half in the room and half virtual? Do all the same rules apply? Yes, all the same rules apply. We now have 2 people in the meeting room and we have the rest of you in virtual. And I'm treating all of you as if you were inside of the room with us. Let's see, Pilar, for any private meetings of any size, actually the participant list I consider to be an important courtesy. Sometimes the people will not give you the participant list. Then what do? You seem to have a thought about that.
There's different ways that you can vocalize who's involved, number one, okay? Do you have an assistant, and do they have the rules? They have to be respectful of what is proper. And you're going to say, okay, this list is only for your eyes only. If someone's asking who's all coming to this, you'd have to ask Dr. Betty for that information. She has it. You have to have that trust to understand that, because you don't want to leak anything. I've seen too many situations, and one of the things, you want to improve ways. You don't want to say, oh gosh, what did I do? I put my foot in my mouth. You don't want to be in that predicament.
Because I have had instances where somebody will come to a meeting and there will be folks that I know that I have a relationship with, and someone else will offer one person up to give help to someone else without even asking or without developing the relationship. Always go to the source, always go to the host. You need to ask Mina, she was hosting this particular meeting. You need to ask Gabriela, she was hosting this particular meeting. Pilar is saying, for any private meeting of any size, actually the participant list, oh, I said that. It would be productive for smaller meetings to have participant list ahead, both for guest speaker, but also a participant. I completely agree.
Absolutely.
Do you recommend that the chat should be during the session, Violetta? And she asked that because I said, you know, you send a little meeting. You do that before the speaker begins, not while the speaker's going, because that's not only rude, you are in the front row. That is the difference. There can be 50 people in the room and every single one of you is in the front row. What you're doing by sending notes in the middle of the conversation, it's not any different than going like this in the middle of somebody speaking right in front of you. It's rude. You're taking their attention away from the person who is speaking. Don't want to do that. And the person that's speaking could be distracted and they could lose their train of thought. That's also rude.
Right. Right.
Don't you think, Mina?
Yes, yes. We've evolved to, you know, projecting different kinds of impressions, and just in our own families too. Just, you know, if you're going to correct a child, they know by that eye that you know you mean seriousness, right? But depending on the culture, others will let you bounce all around their furniture and everything because let them. They're a child, you know.
Yes.
But you're trying to conduce a meeting here. No, you have to understand all those things. So there's a lot of things that have to be prepared ahead of time. But just keep in mind that what Zoom does too, it smothers you with cues. You know, you do this, you got to do that. That's what it means about being for practice.
Yes.
I mean, Dr. Betty is your, how can I say, the professional at hand. Look at her cues. You might be that one person speaking. You're going to remember, you're going to visualize, you're going to say, geez, what did Dr. Betty do in that moment when she asked that question? She just gave you all kinds of, you know, examples. So we're doing this because we want to make sure that you're aware, you take away some skills, and you're only going to improve and get better at what you're doing, which is all this virtual business. And so I think we're hosting this because we're motivating you to learn, and we want to make sure that you speak up when you need to, appreciate those values that are being shared, and go at it. You know, from after this, I'm sure you're going to be involved with business networking, social networking, cocktail networking, off hours networking, retreat networking. All of those 5 things have a different agenda and how you're going to come. Maybe you want to throw in a theme in there: cowboy, Hawaiian or Polynesian, luau. Then that's the theme. That's happiness. That's good. That's good to have. And I've seen a little bit here and there, but when you come already and you've had a little bit too much and you're already coming to the scene, you're going to get tuned out. You know, someone say, please, and say it courteously. You know, you just don't know who's coming. That's why it's so important that you know your list ahead of time, regroup when you can, and, you know, do the best that you can, because we have too much stress to be dealing with. How am I going to participate with this? Oh goodness, there are going to be corporate people. There's going to be the STEM audience. You know, there's going to be professors. You know, you need to convey what you need to convey. So be your best at everything.
Absolutely.
Wake up doing that. You know, praise God that you have that day, that you got to see the light again, and just get going. And that's how we do what we do. You know?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Mina, I can't thank you enough. And I know that Lynette just joined us. Hi, Lynette and Shelly. And thank you, Monica, for joining us. And Priya, thank you for watching. Pablo, thank you for joining. Liz and Lizette, Violetta, Maria, Anna, Olympia, Pilar. We had Susan, George, Ismen, Natalia, William, Giselle from first time. Giselle is joining us from Sydney. So call your friends and let them know this is good stuff. John and Pilar, we talked about Pilar, and Jenny and Walter, Gabrielle, and Denise, and let's see, Jake, Doreen, Vicente Correa.
Oh,
Yes,
Vicente.
yes,
Hello.
yes.
Oh, he's one student, worker, and everything.
I
Yes.
know, Allison. It's because of him because of you that he became a mentee of mine. He's
Oh, good.
such a jewel.
Talk about networking.
Yes, networking. That's how. George, Julian, Clara, Judy,
That's
and
incredible.
Ruthie, and they still coming. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So I think what I would like to propose, and please tell us on Facebook what you would like to see next time. We've opened up different arenas and different areas, and we can delve into any one of these arenas. I know that in my book, Mina Martinez is the best in the topic. And what you do is just amazing. Monica saying she's hosting a little black shirt networking event on June 18th.
Oh, yes.
And Mina has agreed to speak. We're so
Yes.
excited to have her at a women's.
Thank you, Monica. You're on. This is good.
Yes, I know. That's wonderful. So there you go. So Mina is going to be going. So it's Monica Escobar. You can see her. And if you're interested in coming, I don't know. Is that an invitation, Monica? I don't want to presume. But I think what I'd like to propose for next time, unless we hear from the folks on Facebook that they want something different.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are doing virtual meetings right now, we're conducting virtual meetings and all different cultures are joining. In the mornings, we normally have, we have Africa, we have the Netherlands, we have Luxembourg, we have France, we have Italy, we have different parts of the world, Sydney, Australia. And I think it's really important for us to understand protocol and etiquette, both. Those are two different things. We'll talk about what's the difference between etiquette and protocol.
Right.
And then if we can talk about international protocol.
Mm-hmm.
It's different if you're going to be giving a gift to someone in China, you don't want to give them a clock. We'll talk about why later. We'll leave you with a little teaser. If you want to sit someone in the best seat in the house and you go to Asia, there's a place where you seat them that is the best seat in the house. If you're going to be going to a dinner gathering, where do you sit? How do you show up? What do you bring to that home? Do you come empty-handed if you've been asked to dinner? A lot of different things, but I really want the international flavor to our next conversation. We've not touched on the international flavor. And for those of us who travel internationally, it's so important. I gave an example the last time of when I went to meet with President Uribe in Colombia and how someone totally took away, stripped himself of all of his accolades in 30 seconds in one move that this individual made. So we'll share all of that in the next time. So for those of you who joined us, thank you so much. Monica, yes, she's going to be sending the link to the event in an Eventbrite. So there's that link that Monica's already put it. So everybody's welcome to Monica's event. And Mina's going to be joining that event as well. Yay! So thank you so much. Mina, thank you so much. Is there any one last thing that you would like to leave the audience with?
You know, I do. And networking is a privilege. Know that, okay? And I took away a number of things that I was just remembering. Because I said, God, there's so much to talk about with networking, and depending on the platform, and we're talking virtual here. So going on the global net, because Dr. Betty and I are also members of the Global Women Club, and
Yes.
that is huge throughout, the world. And we've had an opportunity to travel to places. Boy, the culture's so different. You know, what they might celebrate, we don't. What they might think is not funny, we do. And so if we laugh at something, they'll look at you or they'll just like look down, again, going to international protocol. We just have to we have to understand that before you go somewhere, know what you're doing and what you're saying, because you could be very insulting just by the way you sit or the way you have body language,
Yes.
extremely important. So if we're going to a speaking spot and you have to pay because this networking opportunity is giving you a privilege and you get to speak 10 minutes, but there's a fee. Know that you have to turn it in. VIP is giving you an access to what? To VIP networking. Do you really want that? Do you understand what VIP networking is all about? Maybe there's something with marketing involved there. Is it a reception? Is it a cocktail? And there's dinner after? But there's an exhibit that you have to be a part of. And for that, they want you to pay a certain amount. Be careful. Watch out what you're reading because those online things are so tricky. There are people out there doing things. You just have to know and go to the source, like Dr. Betty says. Fact. Make sure you do your homework about that. So
Yes.
I leave you with that because, you know, we're going to eventually upgrade to what a VIP business attendee is. There's so much behind that in itself. So be
Yes.
careful. Be very careful.
And
when you do these
networking
things.
is a privilege. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Mina Martinez, Chief Etiquette Officer at Prestige Protocol. She's also the founder of this organization. I have seen her in action. I have dined with Mina in, oh my goodness, in France, in London.
London.
We dined in London together. We dined in Washington, D.C. together, all over the United States together. And it's such a pleasure, always such a pleasure. You're such a, you know, if there's a gentleman, a gentle lady associated to that same term, I would have that term for you, Mina. You're a dear. You're so very capable, and I love learning from you. I learn something from you every time. Thank you so much, and we will see you next Tuesday where we will be talking about international protocol. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. If you have any questions, leave them on Facebook and we'll answer them for you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.